I did start off as a legal assistant here back when we were a very tiny office and there were just 2 attorneys here. I went to law school, I came back, I was a Fulbright Fellow actually with our then office in Budapest, Hungary. I came back into the United States and was an Equal Justice Works Kachet Firth Fellow, and I'm now back as one of the co-directors of litigation.
We went to the San Francisco Foundation, who basically on a hope and a prayer gave us a $35,000 grant, and we were off and running with borrowed space that was left over from downtown office in Oakland. Most of our cases come to us through organizations. They know what their problems are, they know what their priorities are, and they come to us with systemic issues.
This requires me to really push as hard as I can. There are a few intersections with some tricky, difficult thresholds.
I was young and eager to make my mark in the world, to make the world a more accessible place where people like myself and with other types of disabilities could really be part of mainstream society.
Over half of the people who are members of the San Francisco homeless population have severe mental disabilities.
What we do is we try to select the cases that have the most impact, and that often means suing the biggest and the most powerful, but so be it.
I had naively thought that if I get my child in the schoolhouse door, it would just be open for every child with a disability, but that was not the case. So within about 2 weeks, I decided, okay, I'll go to law school.
I had developed while in law school an interest in technology issues, and so when I applied to DRA and learned that they were planning on having someone work on cutting-edge technology disability rights access cases, I said, hey, this sounds great, and the rest is history.
I've used a wheelchair since I was a teenager, and ever since that time I've become just acutely aware of all the places in life that suddenly became inaccessible to me, and I felt like the world should be more accessible. And after enough years of hearing that certain building codes didn't require certain places to be accessible, I said, enough. I want to help make things better for the next generation.
I'm dyslexic, and dyslexia runs in my family. And I wanted to work with disability rights advocates because of its fabulous work in the area of learning disability advocacy.
The disability rights movement is actually a young movement, and it's one of the things that makes practicing law exciting for me and for the fellows.
When you're a new attorney and you have this wonderful fellowship opportunity to make such a difference in so many people's lives, it was inspiring, it was challenging.
It's something we really share, the need for excellence in terms of legal representation for disabled people.
Sid has not slowed down really at all. He has continued to creatively focus our energies on how can we make sure DRA is in the forefront of this fight for civil rights for people with disabilities, not just in the last 20 years, but for the next 20 years to come.
Some of the most recent cases that I've been involved in that I have found the most rewarding are cases regarding emergency preparedness. And those are cases that we have done all over the country. So we've done a case in Los Angeles. We recently concluded a trial in New York on the issue. We've done cases in the Bay Area on the issue. We're talking about how do you, for example, evacuate hundreds of thousands of people with disabilities in a large metropolitan area in a major disaster. And so it's the kind of issue that impacts vast numbers of people, but also does so in very life and death ways. And there are also cases where we were the first people to be litigating it, and so we were really creating law where there was none.
Unlike in Berkeley, in New York, DRA is the only nonprofit legal center doing the work that we're doing, which means that when we opened the office 3 years ago, our clients were thrilled to have us, and there was an intense need for the work that we were doing.
Sid and I out there in Manhattan couldn't get a taxi that I could get into in a wheelchair. And we said, wow, this can't be right, that the New York City, where taxis are the way people get around to key business meetings, or in our case, to get to a foundation or to seek a grant to start up an office, that there's zero access. let's see if we can't fix that problem. Now, 3 years later, we are actually seeing some progress on that issue.
Every year, Sid and I do what we call a needs assessment, where we go around and talk to many of the leading nonprofit groups in the city, and we say, what do you need? What are your problems? And invariably, people come back with, we need housing, we need to get around the city, we need jobs, we need, basically every basic thing that one needs to live fully in the world.
We take on risky cases. They're cases of monumental injustice, but they're often the first such case in the country, and nobody else will take them on.
DRA is unique in that we are committed to using the law as an instrument for social change to make the world a fair place for people with disabilities. We are not focused on direct services, we are focused on changing institutions and the entire fabric of American society so that people with disabilities have a fair shot at being full participants.
One of the biggest problems about disability rights is that people don't even understand it as a civil rights movement. And that's what DRA gets. DRA understands that these are civil rights. These are a right to equality, a right to opportunity, a right to just basic dignity.
It's just so important that organizations like DRA have fellowships so that young attorneys who want to do this really meaningful kind of work that literally changes the landscape.
To actually be in the trenches and develop these cases from the grassroots level through the courts and see the tangible results in the community, it was beyond what I had expected I would be able to achieve or be able to be part of.
Disability rights advocates really keeps their pulse on what's going on, not just locally, but nationwide, and on major issues that will have major impact.
I had a fellowship from the LD Access Foundation and David Boies, and because of those two funders, I now have a full career as a civil rights lawyer, and I run DRA's New York office.
What I would say to somebody who's thinking about contributing to the Walensky Fellowship program is that you should contribute to the fellowship if you're concerned about ensuring a sustainable disability rights legal community.
Mike Nunez just completed 2 years as DRA's first Walensky Fellow. DRA recently offered him a staff attorney position he has accepted.